Good afternoon, good morning. This is Mark Johnson from Loyalty360. Everyone's happy, safe, and well. I want to welcome you to another edition of our Leaders in Customer Loyalty series. In this series, we have the privilege of speaking with leading brands who are focused on customer channel and brand loyalty. That's a great way to get a perspective on what they are seeing and hearing in the industry. And today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Doug Baker, who's the Director of Marketing at Wingshack Enterprises. Doug, how are you today?
I'm great, Mark. How are you?
Good, thank you very much. First off, we love to start this on a personal level, get to know more about the person we're speaking with. So we'd love to know a little bit about you, your background, your position at Wingshack, and then maybe a fun fact about yourself. Are you a big basketball fan? Do you have 14 kids? Do you like to parasail? You know, what's kind of a passion of yours?
Sure. Well, thank you for inviting me on the program. It's an honor to be here. You know, you guys have such a wealth of knowledge and information at Loyalty360, and I'm just excited to share our perspective. My name is Doug Baker. I am the Director of Marketing for Wingshack. We have 9 units in 2 states, the majority of which are in northern Colorado, but we also have 1 in Wyoming. We have a sister concept as well called Sexy Sammy's Chicken Sandwich and Tenders. I've been with Wingshack for about 8 years now, and have overseen its growth from 4 units to 9 units in the sister concept. And fun fact, well, as we were discussing earlier, I am a huge college basketball fan. And, you know, I think last year, as being the biggest North Carolina Tar Heels fan you might ever meet, last year was probably the funnest season I've ever experienced in my life. Usually when Carolina makes it to a national championship game, they are projected to win it. It was a miracle, in my opinion, that they even made it to begin with. And so every game was just a joy to watch because I figured they would lose every single game. So I got to feel what it was like to be a David versus a Goliath for one season and really pull from my heels.
Well, that's good. Perfect. It was a great series for sure. I think they made the finals, I think. I don't really remember.
Yep. They lost to Kansas in the national championship. It was still heartbreaking, even though, like I said, they were kind of playing with house money. But man, what a fun season.
Excellent. We always like to ask brands how they define certain topics. You know, we have a pretty large and growing brand community. So how they define customer loyalty from a qualitative perspective is very important. So, you know, how do you define customer loyalty, and what does it mean to Wingshack?
Sure. And I think it's a sort of a difficult question. I mean, when you tread into loyalty, I think, you know, you get into some archaic terms and maybe some misnomers, at least from our perspective. You know, I think what we try to do is identify brand advocates for Wingshack, those people that are influencers when maybe they're with a group of people and are like, where do you want to eat? Well, I think we should eat at Wingshack. We love Wingshack. You know, if somebody's in the mood for wings, it's a crowded market, especially since the onset of, or the proliferation, I should say, of DoorDash, Chow Now, Uber Eats. So if somebody wants wings, they can get wings. You know, we would still consider, if they go to Wingstop, we can still consider them a very loyal customer, though, if we sort of identify them as a brand ambassador. And how we do that is, you know, really thankfully due to the online ordering sector and our Toast point of sale API, you know, they have an open API. We can get a sort of a read on who are guests who are coming back multiple times, you know, in a month, who are guests who are dining with larger groups, who are guests who, you know, are having, you know, are trying different things off of our menu. And then we're really able to segment that audience base and really talk to them sort of on a one-to-one communication style. It improves the guest experience, and it allows us to really get actual feedback from, our core group of customers.
Okay. Excellent. So when you look at restaurant brands, you mentioned the industry's been through a great deal the last couple of years of the pandemic. We actually have a working group in kind of the QSR, and they talk about all, they didn't have buy online, pick up in store. They didn't have curbside delivery, a lot of them. So it really changed kind of the focus and structure. Restaurant closures, partial openings, push to digital transformation. Can you take us through some of the transformations you saw in your brand, and maybe even you're still going through? With the whole idea that you want to serve and engage more customers. So how did you manage some of those transitions of the last couple of years?
Well, first of all, I have to give an enormous amount of recognition to our operations team for those early days of the pandemic when nobody really knew what to expect. Like you said, there were shutdowns. There was sort of just an unease and discomfort around going out in the public space. Our operations team was incredible at getting curbside set up within a day.
Right.
Facilitating a safe and healthy environment for our teams. And, I think what I was able to do from a marketing perspective is put a microphone on a lot of the things that the operations team was doing. So in those early days of the pandemic, like we were able to really get some good PR, honestly, out of like, hey, we'll bring it out to your car. Hey, look, this is what we're doing to protect our staff. Hey, this is what we're doing to ensure that your safety is our top priority. After things sort of leveled with the pandemic and we kind of got into sort of the status quo that we're sort of still in, we realized that this sort of digital first mindset, this digital channel adaptation that was happening on, at a scale never before seen, was something that we had to harness. And that I think was an existential matter for our brand. If we didn't get ahead of the curve and if we didn't put in a progressive digital strategy, then we were going to just get left behind, because habits are insanely hard to break. And people were making habits of ordering online through DoorDash, through Uber Eats, through third party. I look at the relationship between third party and our first party ordering as sort of a game of tug of war. I can't thank DoorDash and Grubhub enough for the customers that they brought us, for the guests they brought us. And really, it's a value statement that's impossible to beat. If I'm able to order, my favorite restaurant that maybe might be a barrier for me to get in my car and drive down, they'll bring it directly to my house. I can't compete with that. So what I have to do to encourage first party ordering, and because third party is just not sustainable,
right.
What I have to do is sort of get in a tug of war where DoorDash, Grubhub, they're going to be part of the picture, but I need to sort of pull back some of those guests that they've brought, that we've delighted through our dining experience directly with Wing Shack, and have them directly order through our channels, our first party channels. And so, about midway through the pandemic in early 2021, we switched our online ordering provider in order to provide more clarity on the customer journey. We put in several optimizations in how we deliver and fulfill orders from an operation side. And then we built out a loyalty program that put emphasis, like I said, on those brand advocates. We were able to segment out, our loyalty program is able to segment out based off of a tiered system. So our highest tier is our Hall of Fame, the Wing Shack Hall of Fame. And like those are, to me, our most important guests. Those are the ones that we need to cater to, that we need to build systems around. We need to listen to, and we need to understand how to provide a better dining experience.
Okay, great. Well, when you look at the success of your customer loyalty, customer experience efforts, what KPIs do you and your team use to measure efficacy?
That's a good question, because there are so many variables that go into key performance indicators. Like if we, being in Colorado, if we get a ton of snow, and it's a slow day, do you put that at marketing's feet? Do you put that at operations feet, or do you call it a wash? And so it all goes back down, and sort of my sort of main thesis and my main mindset is those customer advocates, those people that influence buying decisions before they happen. And so a lot of our key performance indicators from a marketing perspective are, of course, your revenue, your ticket count, your total ticket average, but then also how many people have spent $3,000, year to date at Wing Shack. Is that a low number? Then how do we sort of get that higher? And how do we reach out to people and create a more unique experience? Because to create in my opinion, a brand ambassador, considering how inundated everybody is and how with different advertising and loyalty programs and how crowded the marketplace is, we have to be unique. You have to have some sort of market separator in there. And so a lot of our marketing programs and initiatives will come from like, how do we create an emotional connection? And, how do we give these people that are, keeping us open and they're allowing us to sort of organically grow? How do we make an experience that, deserves their hard-earned cash? If they're going to come and sit down and give us their hard-earned cash, we have to make it worth their while. And we have to spark a velvet rope around them that says like, hey, we see you and we appreciate you, and we're going to keep doing the best we can to deliver, the highest value and the highest quality product.
Great. And when you look at privacy, I was on your site the other day and I noticed that you explicitly mentioned privacy kind of on the site. Lots of challenges, Google, the cookies going away, the Facebook and Apple issues, a lot of concerns from our members of Loyalty360 around privacy and how to measure it and how to, it kind of decrease the impact. So, how are these changes that you're seeing, with the cookies going away and the Facebook and Apple privacy battles and even Apple mail privacy, how is that impacting your ability to drive customer loyalty?
It's different, especially because I have a background steeped in digital marketing. Luckily, I sort of bounced over to an email marketing platform very early in my career. And I sort of learned the power of first-party data, of unique identifiers, when you have an e-commerce store. And it was that was sort of when it was about 2010, when I started at Constant Contact, which is an email marketing provider. And it just dawned on me, a light bulb in my head went off of like, what an amazing advantage e-commerce retail has over brick and mortar retail. Like, I always thought it was convenience, which obviously plays a part. I thought there was a myriad reasons of why, e-commerce was just killing brick and mortar retail. But then when I saw like, oh, you can segment, you can identify who your guests are, you can segment messages, you can tailor messages, you can create workflows and really have a conversation with your customers versus a transactional relationship. You can have a relationship that extends beyond the four walls. That's when it really dawned on me. And, I had grown up in restaurants. I've been working in restaurants my whole life and had gotten into the tech, the digital world. But when I saw this opportunity over at Wing Shack, early on, I wanted to get back in the restaurant. And early on, I said, like, e-commerce is coming for you. It came for retail, it came for hotels and hospitality with Expedia and Hotwire and all those. Like, it will come for you if you're not ahead of the game. So the degradation of the cookie, the new privacy laws are something that I think makes it a little harder to advertise, to just buy little boxes on the internet.
Yep.
But if you have a progressive digital strategy in place and you're collecting, your guests' contact information, should they provide it, and your guests' phone numbers, any unique address, then you can use that to really have a great conversation with your guests and with those people that keep your lights on.
Absolutely. And then the last question, we have partnerships are a growing area of interest for brands today, having alignment in response to some of the challenges with privacy. CCPA and CDPA and Colorado has their own privacy regulations. I'm sure you're intimately familiar with. Partnerships are a way for brands to potentially leverage other brands if you can get them in a symbiotic manner. But it's kind of can be a very big challenge to get complete alignment. How has your brand and maybe restaurant brands in general looked at and approach partnerships?
I'll give you one great example, and I don't want to blither on too much because I've been known to do that. But about 2015, 2016, we saw the amount of market share that DoorDash, and DoorDash is really the king up in our region, that DoorDash was taking. And we saw the commissions that they were charging. And, we all kind of looked at each other and said, this is unsustainable. We're going to get priced out. We're going to have an awful reputation because in order to make any money, we're going to have to inflate our menu prices. And so Wing Shack and a group of now 35 other independent, locally owned restaurants in the Northern Colorado area formed a co-op called NoCo Nosh. It has since been rebranded as just Nosh, and it is a independently owned there's a co-op that's owned by independent restaurants, that provides third-party and last mile delivery. Now, that was, in my opinion, an amazing community step of recognizing a problem and a group of restaurants coming together and saying, hey, let's pool our resources here and let's figure out how we can get this done so that we can offer an alternative to DoorDash where our prices aren't as low. There's local boots on the ground service, and there aren't these sweetheart deals for, larger corporations, which, maybe one day we'll be there, but right now we're just not there. And so that sort of synergy and that sort of community partnership helped propel so many different positives. Nosh in and of itself does fine. It's never going to compete with DoorDash or Grubhub simply because it just doesn't have the market share. It was too late to the game. But like I said, it offers an alternative, where we can say, if somebody calls in and says, hey, do you have delivery? We can say, yeah, visit nosh.com for the best delivery deals. And then it's allowed us to sort of open doors and sort of share, hints and tips with brand new restaurants, with, people who have been doing this for 40 years. We're a youthful company, and I can't speak highly enough to having a good partner or having multiple partners who can say, hey, I've been where you've been before. This is how we work through it. And it's not going to be, a set of IKEA instructions they give you, but it'll give you a template that you can work to sort of get through whatever issue you might have.
Okay. One final question. What can Loyalty360 do to help you and your team in your customer loyalty journey?
So I mentioned at the onset of the call, you guys just have an amazing body of content and resources. And I don't think that people know how much knowledge there is at your fingertips on Loyalty360. It is a ever shifting game. You have to be ahead of the curve. And to have a spot to have a hub where that is the main emphasis, and that you have people from all walks of life sharing their perspective. I listened to one with, the head of brand from Carl's Jr. From their parent brand. I can't remember the name of it. There was insight that I gleaned from that never in a million years would I have found by just chatting with our team internally. So, I think if I could say one thing is like education and knowledge is out there, and like it's up to you to take advantage of it. Loyalty360 is opening the door for it. It's up to you to walk through it.
Well, thank you very much. It was a nice kind of summary there, a nice plug. But it was great to hear kind of how we're impacting your brand and hopefully others as well. There's a great deal of content, and hopefully it helps kind of elucidate and elevate the discussion around customer loyalty, because that's really our goal. So thank you. Well, and thank you very much. And also, Doug, for taking the time to talk to us, sharing your journey, Wing Shack, what you guys are doing, how you're doing it, and some of your unique kind of program focuses is great to hear, especially for a smaller entity. Your passion and commitment to customer loyalty is resolute, and you don't always hear that. So thank you again for taking the time to share it with us.
Mark, I appreciate you guys taking the time to highlight our little brand here in Northern Colorado. And I'll just say, go Heels.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Join us again for another edition of our Leaders in Customer Loyalty series. Have a wonderful day.